Hey everyone, this is the Spoon Dude back with another custom figure video. This time we're taking a look at my custom Ultimate Venom figure. Viewers of my channel would have already seen a bit of this figure, as I have posted footage of me painting it earlier, but now you get to learn how I made it. After making my Ultimate Spider-Man, I started toying around with the idea of making more Ultimate Marvel characters since I do like the Ultimate Marvel universe. The Ultimate version of Venom was getting my attention, as Venom is himself pretty iconic, and I thought was always a pretty good foil for Spider-Man, and as a figure would be a good sort of companion piece for my Ultimate Spider-Man custom. As Ultimate Spider-Man was a reimagining of the Spider-Man story, when they eventually got to redoing the Venom and sort of Black Suit saga, Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley went a whole different direction than the alien suit from Battleworld. This new version of the symbiote was bioengineered, made as a suit to heal cancer patients, and it was created by the scientist parents of Peter Parker and Eddie Brock. With the new version of Venom came a new design. While the comic covers and promotional material for the story show a fairly traditional representation of Venom, though maybe a little bit more purple than normal, I guess, the actual design within the pages of the comic is a lot more unique. Gone is the white spider logo that stretched across the character's black chest. Additionally, Mark Bagley also rendered Venom to have these tendrils coming out of him, making for a pretty dynamic sort of silhouette. His skin is covered in bumps and these symbiote veins. Additionally, in his first appearance, Venom also had these teeth that were embedded around his upper half, which I've always sort of interpreted as what remained of the people that he's absorbed, which is something this version of Venom does. Eddie Brock himself also looks a little bit different than the wide, thick eyebrows 616 classic version, as he's now a skinny college student with freckles, or acne, and a goatee, plus buzz cut hair. In deciding to make a custom of Ultimate Venom, I thought about just sculpting over my old custom from like 2018, but I figured that wouldn't really look good since its proportions are kind of weird. I decided to make a whole new custom, and I looked through Figure Realm for inspiration. I settled on a recipe by the customizer Arachnid, who used the Hasbro Spider-Man series Mac Gargan Venom figure as the base. While it's quite an old figure and the articulation is not that great, its proportions honestly work pretty well for an Ultimate Venom. He's got the wide, bulky shoulders, and even has sort of a natural hunch to him, which was really reminiscent of Bagley's Venom. It had all sorts of sculpted texture as well, sort of in the muscles and those extra symbiote goopy veins that was pretty fitting for the Ultimate design. I also really liked his giant clawed open hands. To give him those symbiote tentacles or tendrils, whatever you want to call them, I got some floral wire. I decided to make a couple thick tendrils that would be several wires wrapped around each other, and then a few stray thin ones that were just one piece of wire each. My original plan was to have them be removable with magnets, but the magnets I had ended up being too weak since they were so small, so I decided to just have the wires be permanently stuck in the figure. I did this by using my X-Acto blade to carve holes out of the torso, and even some on the arms, filling them with glue, sticking the wires in, and then filling the gaps with epoxy putty to make the connection between the wire and the figure itself look a lot more natural. You can see how I used the sculpt and tried to sculpt my own little lines and extra tendrils to sort of connect between the skin of the figure and the wire. I also made a few smaller holes in the figure's torso, which I then stuck in some cut ends of toothpicks. I glued those ends in and filled the gaps with some sculpting clay, and that's how I got the teeth that are embedded in his skin. I also used the Milliput epoxy to add little bits of texture to the figure, pretty much just extra bumps to it, since that's what I realized was kind of missing from the original figure. I didn't really add that many bumps, maybe just a couple on his torso though. I also had to fill in the big peg hole in the figure's back from where the scorpion tail would have gone. Now let's talk about the Venom head. Mac Gargan's original beady human-looking eyes were obviously not going to work for Ultimate Venom, who all in all has a pretty traditional Venom face. I got rid of all the detail of the upper half of the Venom face. I even ended up taking off the teeth. I pretty much resculpted the whole upper part, and it was kind of tricky since Ultimate Venom has kind of an inconsistent look when you get to the details. Between panel to panel, artwork to artwork, the shape of the eyes change, the way the teeth look change, whether or not you see his gums change. It's this whole inconsistent thing. So ultimately, I just took a lot of different details from whatever artwork I liked to get sort of a good representation of a general look of Ultimate Venom. He might not be accurate to specific panels if you compare it to one or two, but if you look at it on its own, hopefully you'd recognize that it's Mark Bagley's Ultimate Venom. Some of those details include the eyes being asymmetrical, or the shape of the eyes, and even the sort of black holes that are in the whiteness. And, they're not solid white. Some of it's sort of broken apart. I also resculpted the teeth so that they were all different sizes and lengths. I only resculpted the upper teeth, with all of the lower jaw's teeth remaining intact. I know that makes for an inconsistent look, but since in most angles the teeth are viewed at, different angles, where you mostly just see the top of the bottom row of teeth and the front of the top teeth, I thought I could get away with it, and I think in most pictures it's not too noticeable that the teeth are different. And even if it is, what can I say? I'm lazy. Oh, and overall, I'm still really happy with the way the head sculpt looked. I tried to make it as three-dimensional as possible and as detailed as possible. You can see I did try to put in some lines between the eyes to sort of be, forehead wrinkles. I tried to make the eyes very rounded off so that at different angles they would look good. If you compare it to my first attempt at a Venom custom, with this more Todd McFarlane inspired head, you can see hopefully that I improved in making faces more three-dimensional. I always felt like this old Venom face that I sculpted was really flat, so I think this one looks so much better from a side view. In most comic panels, you couldn't really see Venom's gums above his teeth, so I omitted them on my custom. I thought this would look better, so it'd simplify the Venom face to just being his white eyes and teeth, the only pink sort of being in his tongue. In painting the face, I thought about making the teeth glossy to sort of make them look wet, which I did do for the tongue by applying sort of a gloss coat. I didn't end up doing it on the teeth since I actually liked the way the matte white looked on them. The contrast between the matte white and then the sort of glossy metallic purple I thought looked really cool, so I decided to keep those white parts matte. Before doing any sculpting, I noticed that the head was actually 3 pieces: the top half, bottom half, and then the tongue. I used boiling water to pry the pieces off, trimming the peg off the tongue. While I couldn't use magnets for the tendrils, I thought they'd work fine enough for the head. I put magnets in the tongue and the lower jaw so that the tongue could be removable, and then I sculpted over the magnets of the lower jaw so that if I posed the figure without the tongue and you looked, inside the mouth, you would be able to just see the inside of a mouth instead of, 2 shiny magnets. You'll also notice I put magnets under the top half, which connect to the magnets on sort of the peg from the lower jaw, and I made this part removable so that I could have an interchangeable face. In my video of me painting this custom, I left this part out so that I could reveal it in this video. This alternate face is an Eddie Brock face, which is reminiscent of that bit in the comic when he reveals to Peter that he's Eddie Brock, but as you can see, it's not perfectly comic accurate. I had to rework the way the Venom face moved around Eddie's face because of the way I positioned Eddie's face onto the lower jaw. This head was a Star Wars Black Series Death Star commander who had the right haircut, and I had already used his body for another custom, so it was pretty much just fodder for me. I resculpted the brow to be a bit angrier looking, as well as adding the Ultimate Eddie Brock goatee. I did have to slice the face off the original head so that it could fit correctly on this body and onto that lower jaw piece. You can see the magnet on the face, which connects to the magnet on sort of the peg from the jaw. You can see I changed the way the Venom face moved around the Eddie Brock face. It's not quite like the comics where it's sort of dripping down from his face. Instead, I made it look like Venom was opening his mouth to reveal Eddie Brock inside. You can see I sculpted the Venom eyes on top of his head, obviously a little bit more squinted since there really isn't room for, the whole eyes. I also added these little bits of symbiote peeling away from Eddie's face to try and show that movement and show that it's opening up. Along with that are the teeth, which are the ends of toothpicks again, and I placed them in a way so that it looks like they were sort of splayed out. Of course, I painted the head to match the other one, of course, so it's the same metallic purple, same matte white and off-white. For the Eddie face, I painted it how I paint all my faces, with sort of a base coat of a pink skin tone and then dry brushing of lighter skin tones on top. I painted the hair a dark blonde brown and dry brushed a lighter bleach blonde hair color over it. I painted the eyes as simple black dots, as I wanted to sort of match the comic art where he just had these little black dots in his white eyes, and it made for a really intense sort of angry psycho expression, so I tried to keep that here. As you can see, I also painted black dots around his cheeks to be those freckles/acne. I'm really pleased with the alternate face. I think it's a cool option for displaying this Ultimate Venom, though it is now making me wish I made a Peter Parker face for my Ultimate Spider-Man. I do have the Peter Parker face from just the regular Marvel Legends Ultimate Spider-Man, but of course he's quite happy, and it'd be kind of weird displaying that alongside this Venom. Like I said, I posted the footage of me painting this, so if you want to see the whole process of me painting, well, you can. What I didn't show was me priming the whole thing with this Krylon matte black, which is why when I was painting it, all the pieces were already, solid black. And then after finishing the painting, I also used a clear coat to seal the paint. I used a clear coat for all the metallic, glossy parts, and then a matte coat for the parts that I wanted left matte, pretty much just on the faces. I used like a masking tape to mask off the areas that I didn't want hit with the gloss, and then vice versa when I was using the matte. As mentioned, I had a matte white for the eyes and teeth. For the teeth and the claws, I made them the off-white so that they'd look sort of like a bone color. I thought that looked more organic and natural, and made the white of the eyes stand out more. You can see in my painting video that I mixed white with different colors to get that off-white, and I started with darker shades before dry brushing the lighter shades so that I could make the claws and teeth a little bit more bony, have a little bit of texture just from the paint, and give them, I guess, some shading. I repainted the tongue so that it was a less vibrant red than it was on the Mac Gargan figure, and making it more pink and then dry brushing a lighter pink on top. I'm really happy with the paint job. I think it's relatively simple, but all the dry brushing and stuff does bring out the details in the sculpt. Overall, I'm very pleased with how this custom figure turned out, and I love how it looks with my Ultimate Spider-Man. I think the metallic purple complements his metallic blue very well, and I'm also really happy with the size difference. Some Venom figures I could have used instead of this one might have been too big for Ultimate Venom. Ultimate Venom's bigger than Spider-Man, but he's not supposed to be, Dark Avengers, towering sort of Venom. Again, his articulation is not all there. It's missing any sort of bicep or elbow swivel, as well as thigh swivels. It also has wide-jointed hips, etc. But I think his proportions and sculpted detail more than make up for it, at least when it comes to using it for a custom. As a custom, it does have flaws, even though the body doesn't have paint rub since it's already black. There is some paint that tends to flake from the wired tendrils, which can be annoying since the wires are green. However, since they're sort of a dark green, it's not always noticeable, and I can always paint over them if I'm really bothered by it. I probably could have just used black wires, but oh well. Anyways, that's a custom. Let me know your thoughts on it, as well as give me your suggestions for what other customs I could make. If you made it this far in the video, congratulations! And let me know in the comments by telling me your favorite Spider-Man villain and why they're your favorite villain. As always, like and subscribe. Check out my videos on my Ultimate Spider-Man custom if you haven't already. And I hope to see you on my next video. Thanks for watching.